Password market measure.
Outlier trends for different underlyings. Today we're going to look at a little bit. You guys know how we love looking at outliers. Outlier trends for different underlyings. This is a piece that our research team put together, especially for today, sponsored by the SIBO. I keep kind of teasing some stuff that we're going to be doing with the SIBO, just some educational stuff, which is kind of exciting. I'm in the process of writing it up right now, so hopefully in the next couple of days, we'll be able to kind of tell you all about it.
Good. So right now you're just telling them that you're telling them that you're going to tell them.
Right now we're just telling them that we're going to tell them we're going to tell them. Right. Outlier trends for different underlyings. Let's do it. Our research, such as the market measure, outliers as IV decreases, has shown that outlier losses tend to be less severe for the SPY when implied volatility is higher compared to when it is lower, right?
Okay.
So outlier losses tend to be less severe when implied volatility is high compared to when it was low. Today, we're going to take a look at how outlier loss trends as IVR increases and whether or not that trend varies across a few other underlyings.
So we're looking at implied volatility increases relating to a stock going outside of its expected move. Is that correct?
Yes. We're going to look at outlier loss trends as IVR goes up. So in other words, as IVR goes up, what does that mean for outlier loss trends? Let's go to the next slide.
Which would not be a good thing if you're selling premium, right?
Right. You don't, obviously don't want outlier losses, but you want to know, hey, do I have more outlier risk if the IVR is 15 or do I have it if it's 55?
Sure. So I can be compensated. I get it.
You're going to find this really interesting today. Study SPY, XLE, Amazon, and Apple. From 2005 to 2019. Now, you're wondering why we're doing 2005 to 2019. It's just there's so much data we have to process that we it's just a question of what's clean and what's scrubbed, and so because we don't want any bad data in there. So we just picked this time frame. It doesn't matter that it doesn't go to 2022. 45 days to expiration, 16 Delta strangles, managed at 21 days. And for trades opened in the following IVR ranges: below 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 40 to 50, and over 50. We're going to determine what percentage, and here's my question to you, Bat.
Go ahead.
What percentage of 2 times outlier losses have historically occurred at each of these levels? And how likely is it for a strangle to have a 2 times outlier loss at this IVR level, and the average outlier loss larger than 2 times at this level? So in other words, do you think there's significantly worse results depending on the IVR level?
Well, it takes into consideration the credit received too, right? But when you're getting an outlier move like that, it's the credit received, you're able to go further out. I'm going to say with high IVR, it's going to cut the chance of the expected move going outside of this, the 2 time, by 50% or more.
Let's take a look. We're always challenging ourselves with this kind of stuff. This is hard stuff, I promise you. So here's a really interesting thing. Across all IVR levels, the majority of outlier losses occurred when IVR was low. For all the underlyings we tested, SPY, XLE, Amazon, and Apple. The
blue box, yeah.
Yeah, the blue box. So the majority of outlier losses happen when IVR is low. Now, the majority of time IVR is low.
Yeah, you got to put that. You got to put that.
You got to put it in context.
Yeah, you got to put it in context.
So,
for sure.
So the reason that you have the numbers are
it's like saying you get into an accident most of the time around your house because you drive around your house most of the time. Right.
Of course. The percentage of outlier losses in a given IVR range tended to decrease as IVR increased until IVR became very high. This is in large part because there are more IVR occurrences in the 0 to 20 and the 50 to 100 buckets. That's why you have the biggest numbers there. That's where IVR lives.
Sure.
Either it's really high or it's super low. right? That's it.
Yes.
That's why I have the most occurrences in there. So, again, where's the sweet spot? Is it, we always talk about that 30 to 40, 40 to 50. I'm just saying, you can kind of see. Let's go next slide. And here's where it gets really interesting. This is why there is no discernible trend in probabilities when comparing to how likely it is to have an outlier loss in a given IVR range. The statistics for an underlying stay relatively consistent with increasing IVR, noting that individual stocks tested are generally much more likely to experience an outlier loss. So the probability of a 2 times loss at a given IVR level is virtually the same no matter what.
Well, the math works.
Uh-huh.
There's no edge. There's no
That's right.
gimme.
That's right. Like the
Surprising.
The majority of outlier losses happen when IVR is under 20, because we're under 20 most of the time.
Right.
And over 50, because 50 and 100 is the biggest range. So it happens in those two spaces. But the probability of it happening is the same below 20, in 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 40 to 50, and over 50. Now, you might lose less
Right.
over 50.
Yeah, right.
And you might make more. But the probability of it happening doesn't matter.
It's great.
No matter what it is, whether it's Amazon, Apple, XLE, SPY, doesn't make any difference.
That's great. It's actually very cool.
We've never shown that before. Because we would have all got that wrong.
Yeah, sure. I said it. I would have
thought.
thought that high implied volatility would help.
Yeah. Let's go next slide. So additionally, the average outlier move generally became less severe as IVR increased for the ETFs we tested. So in comparison, there were not obvious trends in the outlier moves for stocks that we tested. So we looked at kind of ETFs versus the individual stocks. The average outlier move was less. It's
almost 2 to 1. I mean, if you look at it over 50,
it's a diversified index. It's going to be less.
Of course. But if you look at even at XLE or even Amazon, I guess, and Apple are almost the same. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Let's take a look at
the numbers play. They win.
Yeah. Let's go to the takeaways. So, this is a very limited study that has shown that outlier losses worse than 2 times, worse than 2 times the credit received, generally do not become more or less likely at any given IVR. But outlier losses may become less severe when IVR increases for core underlyings. Because outlier losses are just as likely when IVR potential profits are higher, it may be suitable for more risk-tolerant traders to increase their capital allocation to core positions in high IVR, hence the allocation mechanics. Right? That's the whole thing.
In a nutshell. Very good study. Got me. So appreciate the research team going through that. Let's take a quick 90-second break and come back. Even the S&Ps, they're getting you too. They're only down 8. They've cut their losses significantly by about 20 some odd handles. NASDAQ was just flirting with unchanged at down 11. Russell down 2 and Dow down 83. We'll be back in 90 seconds. We got, oh joy, Mr. Scott Sheridan coming up next. Tastyworks World Headquarters, followed by your phone calls. You'll listen to Tasty Live.